in rare earth minerals. Let's turn to USA Rare Earth. It's a company that stock is up more than 80% in a month, rallying off of China's tightened rare earth export controls. And here with us at Post 9 in a first on CNBC interview is USA Rare Earth CEO Barbara Humpton. It's great to see you again. I know you're very new, just taking over this role in just a few weeks ago. I mean, what has it been like after China tighten these export controls?
Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation to be here, to both of you. And I will tell you, this is the business issue of our time. I think the world is waking up to the fact that we've had a very fragile supply chain that has developed over the last 30 years, and now it's become geopolitical leverage. So now is the time for the private sector to step up and go anti-fragile, start strengthening the supply chain outside of China, and that's what USA Rare Earth is here to do.
Can you do that? Because as I understand it, I don't know that much about it, that we have access to rare earth minerals, but it's the processing that they dominate and that we can't do.
Well, I'll tell you about what USA Rare Earth has already put together, beginning with a rich deposit of heavy rare earths in Round Top in Texas. Now, moving forward then through the chain, there is a processing team in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, working on advancements and intellectual property that actually will be leading the processing sector. Then ultimately, the team had already put together a magnet manufacturing plant in Stillwater, Oklahoma. That will be commissioned in the coming quarters. So you can see the components. We have what it takes. We can do it ourselves. We had a missing link, though, and it was who will make the metals? So the USA Rare Earth Board had identified less common metals, a UK-based maker of samarium, samarium cobalt, things that we Americans don't necessarily bring up in our daily conversation, but it's absolutely vital to aerospace and defense, absolutely necessary then ultimately for magnet making. So the purchase that we've announced our acquisition, are working our way through the close, it's a twofold move. One is, here is this very rare asset outside of China. They're ready to scale. The second is, this is where we'll find the expertise. With the acquisition of the company, we now have Grant Smith and his team of expert metal makers in Cheshire, England, ready to help us build an apprenticeship program that will train metal makers here in the United States.
How much government support would you want or accept?
Well, we think it's important for the government to recognize, as Secretary Bessent said last week, China has been behaving in non-market-driven ways. And so things that the government can do to help create market incentives so that the private sector can step up and do its good work, that's really important. So we're seeing things that like offtake agreements, we're seeing things like support and permitting so that we can move faster. These are the kinds of things the private sector is asking for.
Right, but not a capital infusion or taking an equity stake, things like that?
There may be choices for that. We at USA Rare Earth, we are well capitalized and debt-free at this point, and so we're going to play our role in bringing this whole sector forward.
So, but what would it take to really ramp production, which seems like we need now?
Yeah, so imagine a network outside of China where there truly are mines producing the heavy and light rare earths. All of those are on accelerated development right now. Second, there's processing, as you point out. And there are experts. Did you know that France, by the way, is an area with true expertise in processing? What we're going to be doing is building a short-term, a medium-term, and long-term strategy so that we bring all of these assets to scale. And it's a brilliant moment to be just relinking the supply chain.
But to get to your ideal level of production would be I'm guessing a decade-long process, multi-decade?
We have plans that stretch out across the decade right now. Magnet making will begin. In fact, my CFO loves to talk about this as the magnet to mine strategy as opposed to the mine to magnet strategy. We're going to be building magnets. We're going to be using supplies, feedstock from at home and around the world. And then ultimately, we need that whole supply chain to be growing and strengthening as we expand.
So what percent of ideal production do you think the U.S. is at right now in aggregate?
Oh, I don't think I have those numbers, really? Carl, but it is small. It is small.
So in innings, we would be talking about the first thing.
We are in the early innings, and it's a great opportunity. Let me tell you about two things that I believe are going to happen next. One, I believe that our auto manufacturers and others in the industry are going to start to agree on how to build the demand signal for these outside of China rare earth elements.
In terms of commitments.
In terms of commitments,
Right.
so we have offtake commitments. Second, I think there's innovation happening at every step along the chain. So this is a great moment. The future demand for permanent magnets is going to do nothing but grow with the advent of physical AI. The introduction of robots, anything that will need to be actuated and moved is going to require this technology. So this is a technical sector that we can see growing significantly in the coming years.
It's great, but do you fear that there's going to be a gap in terms of when it's ready, and say what our U.S. military needs? That's one of the concerns.
Well, this is why we need to make our U.S. defense a priority. Now, this is not the biggest demand signal that we have, but it is the most important.
Right.
So obviously we've been very transparent about the fact that we're focused on the needs of the Department of War and making sure that in the assets that we control, we will prioritize support to the defense sector.
It doesn't sound like and from an M&A standpoint, your portfolio is mature, that there's more to come?
Watch this space.
Yeah. Well, right, because you're trying to grow the footprint, right? I guess of what you're trying to do.
We believe that if we can make investments in all these links across the chain and have them scale together, it will serve the broader market.
So you think the model can get more vertical over time?
I believe it can.
And would you see yourself more as a buyer than a seller? Either one?
We watch this space. Have me back. How about that?
We would love to have you back. I mean, this is the hottest space right now, not just in the market, but I think geopolitically. The president is hosting the Australian Prime Minister this hour, and rare earths are on the agenda. What sort of deals would you like to see in that space?
Well, clearly, the very first thing that needs to happen is securing the actual minerals themselves. But you know that to develop a mine will take years, maybe decades. So one of the important things, especially here in the United States, is to work at both the federal and the state and local level on permitting. Ultimately then, price supports, any kind of price supports that can help make it economic, just to get these efforts started so that we get to that point of true market behavior. Now, second is the investment in the processing that needs to happen, because this is the secret danger here is our dependence elsewhere. So here's the thing. We'll be looking all across the value chain for bottlenecks. Wherever we see bottlenecks, we'll be looking to make investments, and from the strength of our balance sheet, helping others to grow.
Really quick, how many employees?
Today, fewer than 100.
Fewer than 100.
Yes.
But I heard you mention the robot angle. Would this be a huge headcount growth story, or can this be done with machines pretty much?
We're going to need technology because, quite frankly, we don't have all the talent we need outside of China to address the market needs. So here's, we are bringing in experts. We're finding experts from adjacent industries like ceramics. It's easy to then come over into magnets or into the metal making arena. So, we're looking for adjacent talent pools, and then looking for ways to accelerate their training programs. And I think this will be truly exchange programs and apprenticeships. And then when we do that, we'll settle new centers. At Siemens, when I served as CEO of Siemens USA, we talked a lot about globalization, the idea that we can be building more regional supply chains. And we see the opportunity ahead in the US, and as I say, Stillwater, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Texas makes a beautiful ecosystem for this kind of work. And there are other pockets around the world too where you could see us expanding.
So just to be clear, have you talked to the Trump administration about taking an equity stake?
I'm not going to make any comments on that.
Okay, all right. Well, keep us posted. We really appreciate the update, Barbara. Fascinating. Now I know why you left Siemens to lead this company.
This is very exciting.
All right, and here's the president hosting the Prime Minister of Australia, greeting him at the White House. There's been a number of foreign leaders lately, but rare earths, as we're just talking about, Carl, on the agenda here, along with trade policy as well.
Indeed.
Into it.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, it's been in recent days, it's been Zelensky and Argentina, but this one might have bigger macroeconomic consequences, this particular meeting.
And as Eamon said, a little bit caught between the China story as well, because Australia has been a very open economy dependent on China for imports and exports. So that's the topic of conversations. Thank you. But good to see you, Barbara Humpton, USA Rare Earth CEO. Rare Earth's just one part of the trade war here with China, as China looks to